Tonight on the Fifth Estate, they come packed with promises.
I will guarantee you that this will change your reality within 3 to 5 days.
Herbs, minerals, vitamins. 3 out of 4 Canadians take them.
Right here I have our liposomal D.
So this is our Bacopa. It's a very potent antioxidant.
It's a $1.4 billion industry with players from Big Pharma to mom and pop. But what is in the bottle?
I go in to buy a product that I believe in, that I care about, and I pay a lot of money for. It's not even in the bottle. Are you kidding me?
Could we be taking too many?
Many people are taking too much vitamin D. We can't assume that more is necessarily better.
Could they be dangerous?
You actually can hurt yourself. You actually can increase your risk of cancer, increase your risk of heart disease. I think few people know the risks they're taking.
I'm Gillian Findlay, and this is the Fifth Estate. In the fields outside Guelph, Ontario, Stephen Newmaster is on a quest. He's a botanist at the University of Guelph, part of an international team collecting and cataloging nature, making a library of its DNA. For Newmaster, it's a labor of love. He believes in the power of nature to heal.
I buy and use natural health products. I believe in them. I've used them all my life. I've used them with my family. We have that anecdotal evidence that you have some ailment and you take whatever the remedy is and it's dealt with.
So it's an irony that his study would shake the industry that makes those products. In 2012, Newmaster and his team randomly selected 44 herbal supplements sold in Canada and the United States and started comparing what was in the bottle to the DNA in their databank.
We looked at the results and I was fairly astounded. It's like, wow.
60% of the products contained ingredients not listed on their labels. Even more astonishingly, 1 in 3 proved to be outright fakes.
What really surprised me most were complete substitutions. That's where there's a product on the label and the only DNA we found is for some filler, like alfalfa.
So they were advertising it as being a particular product and there was none of that
product? And it
product?
wasn't even in the label. And as a consumer, if I put my consumer hat on, that pissed me off because I go in to buy a product that I believe in, that I care about, and I pay a lot of money for. It's not even in the bottle. Are you kidding me?
At around the same time in Long Island, New York, another case was coming to light. And this time, the contamination would hurt people. It started with a woman who decided she wanted to get into the vitamin business.
I started in my kitchen, making them by hand back in the 80s. I would order the ingredients, I would order the capsules, and with a plate of 100 capsules, I would weigh it out and fill them up. And you have a bottle of 100 capsules of any particular vitamin you wanted.
Do you have background in pharmacology or medicine or any expertise in this area?
I did some college, but most of my time was spent in the medical libraries at Stony Brook.
So you sort of were self-taught then, were you?
Self-taught, correct, yes.
Candace Tripp called her company Purity First. The vitamin formulations were developed by her ex-husband, a chiropractor.
And what was his academic background or expertise in this area?
He was a chemist. He was a chemist in college, and then he went on to chiropractic school.
From modest beginnings, she grew the company into a $500,000-a-year enterprise, selling Purity First on the internet, in retail stores, and through local alternative healthcare providers.
Purity First is a great name, and I said, gee, how can you go wrong? It's what you would imagine that you would want in every single vitamin, that it's absolutely pure.
Vinnie Grosso was an early Purity First customer. The vitamins became part of his daily pursuit of better health.
I'm running every day, I'm feeling great up until the October, November, December timeframe of 2012, where I had some very unusual symptoms.
Unexplained back pain soon became debilitating. He then started hearing from other Purity First customers who told him of their own problems.
I'm hearing stories. My daughter is an honor student. She's on the swim team, but she's been thrown out of school for being overly aggressive. I'm talking to a woman who had lost her position in a choir because her voice had changed. I'm talking to another woman who said, I've got these incredible bleeding scales on my head and I can't go to work.
What they all had in common were the Purity First B50 vitamins they were taking. Testing would reveal the vitamins were contaminated with anabolic steroids. By then, customers had started hiring lawyers. Chris Marr was one of them. And the stories, as horrific as they were, started making sense.
Hair growth on a young lady was one of our clients, basically developing mustache, beard. There's something called clitoromegaly, horrible. It's something I was not familiar with, but it's actually the female sexual organs taking on a male configuration. For the men who ingested these things, they develop what's called gynecomastia. You end up with male breasts.
How the steroids got into the bottles didn't turn out to be much of a mystery. Purity First had outsourced production to a manufacturing company that used to be based here. Mira Health Products, it turned out, made more than just vitamins. It was Candace Tripp's current husband, Joe Queller, who confirmed it with Mira's owner.
I called Mike and said pretty much what could have happened. And, you know, he was making the male enhancement pills. And he said, Joe, he said, if they found any type of steroids in there, the only thing I could possibly think is maybe the mixer was not cleaned enough.
Some vitamins manufactured here on Long Island are triggering...
The FDA recently issued a recall after steroids were found.
Mira, it was revealed, had a history of manufacturing violations. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration would eventually shut the company down.
We're in Farmingdale in front of Mira Health Products.
As for Purity First, the FDA demanded the vitamins be recalled, but that would take nearly 6 months. What it all revealed was how little oversight there is of an industry that affects so many.
I was very concerned, and then I realized that this whole industry needs change. And how much danger we're all in, not just from Purity First likely, but from others that can put anything into these little bottles and put a seal and a label on it.
When we come back, when it comes to supplements, how much is too much? Can they actually cause harm?
You actually can hurt yourself. You actually can increase your risk of cancer, increase your risk of heart disease. I think few people know the risks they're taking.
In Canada today, there are more than 27,000 natural health products licensed for sale. Purveyors from pharmacies to health food stores to international chains. GNC, the largest, has 200 stores across Canada with plans for more.
It's a great, big, beautiful day.
Omega-3 is essential for good health.
Our screens blare advice on how supplements can make us healthier.
Supplements. I get this question all the time. I only take 4 pills.
Reputations and fortunes have been built on dispensing that advice.
The leading nutritional experts agree that everyone should be taking a multivitamin, multimineral product.
But amid the hype, what's often lost is the science that increasingly warns what we're taking to feel healthy might actually be doing us harm.
When people walk into the dietary supplement or vitamin store, they think that everything is just perfectly safe.
Dr. Paul Offit is an infectious disease specialist and best-selling author. His book, Do You Believe in Magic?, questions whether we're taking too many supplements, starting with vitamins.
I mean, you need vitamins to live. The question is, do you get enough in food? And I think the answer to that question is yes. But now there are studies done showing if you take a megavitamin, you actually can hurt yourself. You actually can increase your risk of cancer, increase your risk of heart disease. I think few people know the risks they're taking.
And how do you know what's too much?
Here's how you know what's too much. You shouldn't bypass the satiety level. Your stomach is only so big for a reason.
He illustrates the point with 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. That's one of these tablets. But consider this. The vitamin C in that one tablet is equal to not 1, not 2, but between 7 and 8 entire cantaloupes.
No, you're not meant to eat 8 cantaloupes. It's a dangerous thing to do, to go against what nature intends.
It's even worse, he says, with vitamin E. This capsule contains 1,000 international units. You can also find vitamin E naturally in almonds. But to get the same amount, you'd have to eat a lot of almonds, 1,670 to be precise. Scientific studies have shown that too much vitamin E can be dangerous, especially to men.
If you take large quantities of vitamin E as a supplement, you clearly and definitively increase your risk of prostate cancer. And in a better world, in a regulated world, where vitamin E, a regulated product, it should have a black box warning on it that says just that.
Vitamins E and C are antioxidants. For years, we've been drawn to them because antioxidants are the mortal enemy of free radicals, cells linked to cancer and other diseases.
I mean, if you look at people, for example, who eat diets rich in fruits, rich in vegetables that contain antioxidants, they do seem to live longer and have lesser rates of cancer and heart disease. So the thinking was, great, okay, now we figured out a way to make ourselves healthier. Now let's double down and take even larger quantities of antioxidants, and that's where we cross the line. And now study after study shows that, in fact, it's true. You can take too much in the way of antioxidants.
But that message hasn't reached the public, even though it appears the scientific world has reached consensus. In 2013, the Annals of Internal Medicine published an editorial. Enough is enough, argued. The case is closed. Supplementing the diet of well-nourished adults with most mineral or vitamin supplements has no clear benefit and might even be harmful. So what about vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin? Next to multivitamins, it's the top-selling vitamin out there, promoted by everyone from family doctors to those on TV, like Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Vitamin D, if I had to pick one vitamin to push to everybody to think about again in their lives, it's vitamin D.
It's true we do all need some vitamin D. Health Canada, like U.S. authorities, recommends adults get 600 international units a day. But look at the doses some are pushing.
Most of my patients I've recommended 5,000 IUs daily.
Around the 5,000 IU tends to be perfect. When people are initially really low.
On this Canadian website, I answered 3 questions: my height, my weight, and my age, and was told I needed 10,000 international units a day, 16 times what Health Canada recommends. That advice came from this health research foundation in Calgary. Pure North Synergy, a nonprofit enterprise, is on a mission to improve Canadians' health by, among other things, increasing our levels of vitamin D.
Okay, so vitamin D, do you want to take that right now? Okay. Yes, and that will boost your vitamin D level.
Here, they test blood levels and say none of their participants has ever been harmed by taking more vitamin D. They believe Health Canada made a mistake in calculating the daily amounts it recommends. They base that largely on a study by an Alberta epidemiologist. For its part, Health Canada and the U.S. Institute of Medicine have rejected that Alberta study, but Pure North continues to disagree.
Those recommendations that Health Canada makes are a blanket recommendation, and what they assume is that the population is healthy.
That's the problem, says nutritional scientist Samantha Kimball, head of Pure North's research department.
We know that 60% of the population is overweight or obese. We know 50% of the population has digestive issues, the rates of chronic disease, et cetera, that those assumptions just don't apply to our population.
Okay, well, I went onto your website, I went to your vitamin D calculator, and I put in my age and my weight and my height. And the recommendation that came out of that was that I needed 10,000 international units of vitamin D. What is the evidence that you can point to say that your numbers are right?
Well, there's plenty of evidence that demonstrates that that level is safe. The other component of that is that in order to reach an optimal blood level, that is the best available evidence demonstrates that 10,000 is what you would require.
Well, first of all, you didn't take my blood level. I did this all on the computer, so you
No,
don't know
that's
what my
true.
blood level is. But nevertheless, you're recommending I need that kind of...
As a Canadian, in the winter, if you're not already taking supplements, that's
your
most
best
likely
guess.
what you require, yes.
But it is a guess. It's not.
Oh,
it's
no,
not
it's
science.
definitely a guess. Everyone has a different response to vitamin D.
When I hear that various groups are recommending 10,000 IUs a day or even 5,000 IUs a day routinely, I really want to say, show me the data, show me the evidence.
Evidence is what Dr. Joanne Manson is accumulating here. The Brigham and Women's Hospital researcher has collected blood samples from 25,000 people, making her vitamin D study one of the largest in the world. She's comparing disease rates between those who take vitamin D supplements and those who don't. Final results won't be known for 2 years, but already Manson has concerns.
Many people are taking too much vitamin D. The Institute of Medicine also recommended avoiding getting above 4,000 IUs daily because that could be associated with adverse events. Calcium in the urine, which can be associated with kidney stones, high blood calcium, calcium in the arteries, vascular calcification, as well as soft tissue calcification. And there are now studies that show a U-shaped curve that those who have high as well as low blood levels of vitamin D have higher risks of cardiovascular disease as well as all-cause mortality. So we can't assume that more is necessarily better.
Then there's fish oil, the third most widely used supplement in North America. The omega-3s contained in the oil are believed by many to be essential for good health.
DHA omega-3 in particular is extremely important.
Adam Ismail is executive director of one of the world's largest fish oil trade associations.
There's certainly ample evidence that it helps things like reducing blood pressure, reducing your risk of coronary death, reducing triglyceride levels, your heart rate.
But the science behind fish oil is a little more complicated.
So these are 2 capsules. This is a FDA-approved product. This is a very commonly sold supplement.
Mm-hmm.
So
Preston Mason is a Harvard University researcher.
And give it a smell.
It smells a little bit fishy, but not bad.
Right. Smells. Yeah. You're going to have always some smell.
One of the issues with fish oil is it's delicate. It's extracted as a byproduct from oily fish like anchovies. As the fish get crushed, the oil is exposed to oxygen, and it doesn't take much oxygen to turn the oil rancid.
This is a common supplement for fish oil. See what that smells like.
Oh.
What?
That doesn't smell good. That smells like it's going bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a very strong, fishy smell.
If it was simply an odor issue, that would be one thing. But oxidized oil contains oxidized lipids. Lipids are one of the building blocks of cells. Scientists have long known that lipids, when oxidized, may do harm.
So oxidized lipid triggers inflammatory responses within our body, particularly in our cells. And if we ingest oxidized lipid, we can trigger these inflammatory changes that can lead to things like cardiovascular disease.
No one yet knows at what point oxidized lipids may become dangerous. But over the years, studies have shown omega-3 supplements containing high levels of them. In 2002, the industry set a maximum oxidation standard, a voluntary one. And yet just this year in New Zealand, a study found 83% of fish oil supplements failed to meet the industry standard.
It was shocking to see such a high proportion of products that had high oxidation levels. And so we went and actually bought 47 products from the New Zealand market and had them tested.
Well, what was the percentage that you discovered that were not in compliance with your standards?
It was around 20%.
Would you agree that 20% is still problematic?
Well,
from a consumer's point of view, I mean,
if it's truly 20%, then yeah, we would like to see those 20% improved.
But even if the industry improves the quality of fish oil, it won't address the other issue about omega-3 supplements, and that is the growing evidence that they don't live up to their claims, that they don't help prevent disease.
2 years ago, endocrinologist Dr. Andrew Gray compiled all the best studies on fish oil, as reported in the world's most prestigious scientific journals. The vast majority were in agreement.
I think for cardiovascular disease, one has to say there is no compelling evidence that taking fish oils protects against a first heart attack or a second heart attack. And so people who are advised to do that or are doing it are wasting their time and their money.
But the fish oil industry continues to insist the benefits are real. We asked the Industry Association to send us their best evidence, which strangely turned out to include some of the same studies Gray had cited, and didn't seem to help the case that Adam Ismail was trying to make.
This one says it doesn't appear to reduce sudden cardiac death. The next one, insufficient evidence. JAMA 2012, overall omega-3 supplementation was not associated with a lower risk of all-cause mortality. Another journal, 2012, the evidence is not clear-cut and any benefits are almost certainly not as great as previously believed. So that doesn't seem to be suggesting there's an overwhelming amount of evidence.
Yeah, well, I think what you're looking at are the abstracts. And I brought the studies with me so I can show you the actual data from inside the full papers.
But the conclusions are the conclusions.
Well, but again, those papers are looking at very large areas of cardiovascular disease, and I think it's hard to argue that omega-3s aren't important for how your heart functions.
It might be true if you get the omega-3s from eating actual fish. The problem is science has yet to prove the same is true for supplements.
We would think that something that's natural, that's essential to normal cell function and body function would have clinical benefits. It just has to be proven. There's a lot of important and noise or promotion, but we still need the strong clinical trials to validate those hypotheses.
So in the absence of scientific evidence for so many supplements, why are regulators so eager to approve them? When we come back.
This says to us that they know that the products are of low quality.
North America's love affair with dietary supplements came of age in the 80s. Everyone, it seemed, was on a quest for better health.
That is an antioxidant. It's synergistic with the E.
Fed up with a traditional medical system that too often seemed cold and impersonal, people were embracing alternatives. Science was out, nature was in, and an industry was poised to take advantage.
Back then in Canada, most natural health products were regulated as food. There was no requirement for testing, no need for manufacturers to prove their products safe or effective before putting them on the market. But some people got sick, and that put pressure on government to do something. It would lead to a battle, manufacturers and believers against scientists and regulators, those with the responsibility to protect public health.
The battle first erupted in Washington.
We are back at the turn of the century when snake oil salesmen could hawk their potions with promises that couldn't be kept.
In the early 90s, David Kessler arrived at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, promising tougher regulations for supplements. In particular, demanding manufacturers back up health claims with evidence.
The industry went bonkers. I've taken on some of the hardest regulatory issues. I did tobacco. Tobacco looked easy compared to dietary supplements. What happened was the dietary supplement industry recognized that the standard that we set, significant scientific agreement, would require it, before it could make a claim, to have a scientific basis. And they just couldn't make any claim. And they saw literally billions of dollars at stake. And they unleashed a lobbying campaign that was second to none.
The campaign was as dramatic as it was effective, framed by the industry as an attack on fundamental freedoms.
Hey, guys, it's only vitamin.
It even got Hollywood involved.
Vitamin C, like in oranges.
The appeal for letters produced millions, more mail than Congress received about the Vietnam War, and it worked.
784, a bill to amend the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act to establish standards with respect to dietary supplements and for other purposes.
The law that passed was a victory for the industry. In the United States, there'd be no requirement to prove supplements safe or effective before allowing them on the market. In Canada, a few years later, the same battle would play out as industry and its advocates took aim at Health Canada's plan to clamp down. Among the proposals to regulate natural health products as pharmaceuticals, hold them to the same scientific standard as prescription drugs. Dr. Stuart MacLeod sat on a Health Canada advisory board that recommended just that.
We should have a single standard of evidence, and we should not be endorsing any products that didn't meet that standard. And we were really talking about standards of efficacy, the kind of thing that comes from a randomized controlled trial.
As in the United States, the pushback was intense.
It's about control and big money. Why, after centuries of successful use of these herbs and plants throughout the entire world, would the government butt in now to tell you that you can't make decisions for your own health, for yourself and your family?
There were letters and petitions, and in the end, the campaign worked here too. Then Health Minister Alan Rock backed down.
We must respect and allow room for Canadians' freedom of choice when it comes to natural health products. The government should not be in the business of micromanaging people's lives.
But unlike in the US, in Canada, there would be some rules. If Canadian manufacturers wanted to make health claims, they'd have to provide some evidence the claims were true. They also committed to following good manufacturing practices. It was a deal the industry still holds up as a reassurance for consumers.
Health Canada has provided us with one of the strongest regulatory frameworks in the world.
Helen Long heads the Canadian Health Food Association.
Before a product even goes to sale, you must provide proof that your product works, that it has quality ingredients, that it's effective, that it does what it says it will do on the bottle.
But what constitutes proof? In 2001, Wayne Friesen of Winnipeg got into the supplement-making business. Today, his company, Innotech, markets 16 products. His biggest seller, a vitamin powder called Cardioflex.
Basically, it's an amino acid formula. You're elevating your essential amino acids like lysine. You're elevating that from whatever you're eating in your daily routine with your diet. Okay, so that's not going to work very good unless you have adequate levels of vitamin C. So we have 3 kinds of vitamin C.
So who formulated this?
Well, we worked with a chiropractor, and we challenged the formula. Do we want this in it? Do we want that in it? Like how are we? Is it going to taste good?
What expertise does a chiropractor have when it comes to cardio health?
Well, there's a lot of chiropractors that believe in the Linus theory for the nutrients that are missing out of the Western diet.
Linus Pauling was once a giant in the world of science, a double Nobel Prize winner in chemistry and peace, who became even more famous for his theories about high doses of vitamin C, which he claimed could cure everything from the common cold to cancer.
He was a scientific hero who was making that statement, and that changed things.
A hero Dr. Paul Offit has famously called arguably the world's greatest quack.
I think when he made those statements in the late 60s and early 1970s, megavitamins, taking vitamins vastly in excess of the recommended daily ounce, became something people thought was a good idea.
And was there science at the time that suggested that he was right?
There was not a shred of science to suggest that he was right. In fact, some of the early studies that were done in the early 1970s showed that quite the opposite.
Over the decades, study after study refuted Pauling's theories. And yet 40 years later, it's still hard to disabuse the believers. Wayne Friesen sells a product based on Pauling's ideas, all approved by Health Canada. You know that Dr. Linus Pauling's science on this has been discredited for many years now, that the scientific community has essentially written off Dr. Linus Pauling when it comes to vitamin C in these kinds of formulations and the prevention of disease.
Yeah, there was some press on that with the medical doctors and that, but not amongst the health industry. The natural health industry has embraced it.
In the early days of regulation, Health Canada seemed to be proceeding cautiously, rejecting more applications than they approved. But that created a backlog, and it wasn't long before the government was under political pressure from an industry anxious to get the system moving again. In 2012, Health Canada went on a cross-country tour to hear from the industry directly.
So this was a PowerPoint presentation given by Health Canada.
Michael Cruz of the watchdog group Bad Science Watch attended some of the sessions and kept the handouts. Health Canada was promising a new approach, but the slides reveal problems Health Canada was aware of. For example, 40% of complaints received were about natural health products. 40% of those were about quality.
They say contamination, they say purposeful adulteration.
Yeah, those are all certainly the things that we brought up as well, and supported by loads of evidence. This says to us that they know that the products are of low quality that are getting to market.
And yet the solution seemed to be to trust the industry even more. According to this slide, it was up to the license holder, not Health Canada, to ensure quality. For many claims, Health Canada would accept what it acknowledged was weak evidence. It was all part of its effort to make the approval process quicker and clearer. Cruz couldn't believe what he was hearing.
One of the outcomes of that was that you could get approval in as little as 10 days for your product. Now I thought, 10 days? How is that possible? But there was a small manufacturer who stood up and said, 10 days is too long. We want to be able to respond to what's called the Dr. Oz effect, where Dr. Oz has raspberry ketones, for example, on his show and says, these are the new miracle product. We want to have those products on our shelves within a couple days. And I just thought, well, this is the problem.
In the end, the industry got what it wanted. From rejecting more than half of applications, Health Canada today approves more than 90% of them. It does retain the right to conduct spot inspections, but it employs just 10 inspectors for an industry that now boasts nearly 800 license holders.
Which brings us back to manufacturers. Wayne Friesen says Health Canada has inspected his factory. No one has ever suggested his CardioFlex has caused harm. But given its roots in now discredited vitamin C science, on what basis did it get approved? Health Canada tells us CardioFlex's ingredients meet established standards for promotion of cardiovascular as well as general good health. And yet, at $49 a jar, Innotek's claims for CardioFlex go far beyond that.
I've looked at some of your marketing, and these are among the claims that you make, that this product lowers cholesterol, it increases energy, it lowers high blood pressure, it improves HDL cholesterol, the good one, it alleviates chest pains, it improves circulation, and it makes you feel younger. So what evidence do you have to support any of those claims?
Those are the not necessarily claims, but those are the some of the things that are reported by our customers who use it over the last 12, 13 years.
What I'm trying to get at is there any science that you have done or anybody has done that supports those claims that you make in your marketing?
With this product?
Yeah.
Well, we're about to do a study with...
You haven't done any to this point.
Right, and nobody has.
But how do you know it's actually effective is what I'm asking.
Well, we wouldn't put it on the market unless it was effective.
Repeatedly, we asked Health Canada for an interview to discuss all of these issues. Repeatedly, they refused. For critics, it raises the question, given the weaknesses of the Canadian system, is it really any better than the unregulated system in the U.S.?
But there really is nothing different, in the final accounting between the two systems, and that's what concerns us.
So we have lovely regulations on paper, but in practice?
Yeah, they're not being enforced, yeah.
When we come back, what can happen when regulations are missing?
We found the results to be shocking. We found asparagus DNA, houseplant DNA, rice, and other things, but not the product that was on the label.
Right here I have our liposomal D. Vitamin
this
D
is our bacopa. This is an herb that would be great for older individuals that are
the essential nutrients like chromium.
For as long as there have been supplements, there have been concerns about contamination, adulteration, even fraud. But few studies have had more impact than the 2013 study led by Guelph University's Stephen Newmaster. 60% of products he tested had ingredients that shouldn't have been there. 1 in 3 were fakes.
When we got the results, I remember saying to my colleague, this is very, very important information, and the public is going to be very concerned.
It wasn't just the public. After the study appeared in a scientific journal, it was picked up by the New York Times and read by New York's Attorney General.
Last December, my office purchased a variety of store-brand herbal supplements from stores in different parts of New York State.
Eric Schneiderman ordered up his own tests of herbal supplements, which produced even worse results.
Found that only 21% of the products we tested in fact had DNA evidence that they contained the product listed on the label. We found the results to be shocking. We found asparagus DNA, houseplant DNA, rice, and other things, but not the product that was on the label. So there were people selling what purported to be ginseng that clearly contained no ginseng. And this is a multi-billion-dollar-a-year industry. And it seemed that there was just a massive fraud going on.
Schneiderman started by ordering retailers to stop selling the products in question. He then went looking for political support. Today, 14 states' attorneys general are calling on the U.S. Congress and the FDA to finally get serious about supplement regulation. But the FDA's equivalent in Canada has been strangely unconcerned. Since publishing his study, Steve Newmaster has heard from regulators and industry players around the world, but he has yet to hear anything from Health Canada.
No, I don't recall an email from them, a phone call. We haven't crossed paths in meetings that we go to.
So this has been published in a major scientific journal? And
I'm waiting, and I'd love to work with them, and I'm not sure how this fits with their mandates and how they could move it forward, the technology.
We asked Health Canada why they didn't act on Newmaster's work, especially since the Americans did. In a written reply, they said they did review the study, but because Newmaster didn't list all ingredients and brands that he tested, Health Canada decided no action was necessary. So what about the industry? 1 in 3 products tested were fakes? Is it not concerned? Canadian Health Food Association's Helen Long.
Well, I think it's important to remember that there are varieties of testing. I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to the specifics of the testing. But I think it's important to remember there are various methods.
You don't accept the method that was done here, the DNA barcoding?
I'm not suggesting that, but I'm not a scientist. Health Canada has not yet approved that method of testing.
Health Canada may not have approved it, but some in the industry are starting to embrace it.
Take some of the sample and simply...
Since publishing his study, Newmaster has refined his DNA barcoding technology, made it more portable and cheaper to use.
Load it into the machine. Press go.
The giant supplement retailer GNC has now agreed to start using DNA barcoding. Walmart has expressed interest too. And one of North America's largest manufacturers, Nature's Way, recently formed a partnership with the scientists at Guelph in a renewed effort to put quality first. Travis Borkert is a Nature's Way VP.
It is a game changer, right? We started working with Dr. Newmaster and started a relationship which included testing many of our herbal dietary ingredients for identity.
If Newmaster has his way, supplement makers will soon be able to test ingredients all the way back to the source.
It's easy, it's cheap. It can be tested all the way along. And I think that's an appropriate way to solve the problem.
But that still leaves the question of what, if any, of this stuff actually works.
We're using the herb combined with the standardized extract.
Supplement that contains perna.
In the absence of science, in the absence of meaningful regulation, what is a consumer supposed to believe? The problem may all be encapsulated in this. Every natural health product approved for sale in Canada is given a number. It's right there in the small print. It's Health Canada's assurance the product is both safe and effective. But critics say it's meaningless.
I think the government is misleading the public in suggesting that they have validated the efficacy and quality of natural health products.
People are spending millions of dollars on these products every year, and most of them have no evidence of efficacy. So they're being duped by a manufacturing lobby that really is focused on profit and not on the person's health.
And yet people buy, and still they believe. Perhaps there are some things that science will never change.
We love the notion of a magic pill. We do. It's something that makes it all better. It's just too seductive.